Hey, what's up, comrades? Hope everyone's doing great. We are on the final movie that we're going to watch in the Highlander franchise, at least until the Henry Cavill one comes out, and then we'll slot that in whenever I get a chance to check that out and do this. But this one is a funny one. It's called The Search for Vengeance, and it stars Colin McLeod, and Colin McLeod has nothing to do with Connor or Duncan or any other McLeods. And this is I don't know if it's a Japanese animation, but I read somewhere that the guys who worked on Ninja Scroll did this, so that would definitely make it like an anime, right? I try to be very careful with this because it infuriates me when these crazy fucking people in the West who have completely lost the plot call anything that is like anything that's animated anime at this juncture, like the Castlevania cartoon, right? Like it's not anime. It wasn't made in Japan. Like, it's not Japanese at all. It's very Western with its like super gayness and stuff. Like, there are so many gay relationships in that show. It is like ridiculous, and I liked it, right? But that is some woke nonsense. Like, if it wasn't so good, I would never watch that crap. But it was pretty good. And mostly because the Japanese anime style like battles, and it was like, man, when the battles in that, like the story in that was like okay, but the battles in it were so badass, man. Like it was so hype. Damn. Anyway, it's cripping off this and Ninja Scroll, like the Castlevania. So I'm talking about the Castlevania Netflix show. I didn't watch the second one because the first one was like getting too woke for me, and the second one I heard was even worse, and I was like, nah, I'm good. I'm pretty much like a woke vegan at this juncture. Like, I've had enough, right? My sentiment is, if it even like whiffs of like meat / wokeness, I'm out. Like, I'm hard out. And there's some things like the Dragon Quest remakes that I'm watching, or I'm playing through, or I played through a couple months ago if you're following my channel. That, like, I just patched out all the woke shit, so that was fine. I'm not gonna pay for that shit ever, under no circumstance. But I'll torrent it if it's like a good product, right? But like, I didn't play Baldur's Gate 3 because I literally was like, nope, too woke. So that's my general stance on this stuff, and like, it's like, I've just had enough. I'm not supporting these people. I'm not even supporting them through torrents. I don't want them to even go on like a torrent site and see that like it's popular, to be completely honest. Now, Square Enix is a funny character in this whole plot because like it's kind of like Sony, like Western, the Western Sony and Western Square Enix are like a complete disaster, while the Japanese side is still pretty good. So it's like a more nuanced kind of thing. You gotta like tread yourself through to figure all this stuff out. Phone, why do you keep turning off? Anyway, let's talk about Search for Vengeance. Search for Vengeance is pretty good. It's pretty freaking awesome, like, for real. We start with Colin McLeod, who's dead. It is like the 15 or 1600s, I want to say. I don't remember. It said some point, but I wasn't paying that much attention. And he's laying on a table dead. We then head to the future of, I don't think it said what year it was. Thank goodness, right? That's like, identifying a year is like a stupid thing to do. So it's just like the far future. The world has like completely collapsed. There's no countries anymore. There's just city-states. There's like a lot of anarchy and chaos and whatnot. And then this one city-state, which I think is supposed to be like New York City, but it doesn't say that either, so excellent again, right? It's just some ambiguous, like, large city. It could be Chicago, could be Houston, who knows? Presumably in America, but it could be like Berlin, who knows? Is ruled by this total asshole named Marcus. And so we get kind of like a little bit of like, it's like dialogue, right? We don't get dialogue, we get like words on the screen that kind of explain this. But we pick up with Colin, who is searching for someone to get vengeance on. Obviously it's Marcus, right? We're not stupid. But he runs into some goons at night outside of like this major city. And then they like are talking shit to him, and he's like, I don't want anything to do with you. And they're like, oh yeah, we want something to do with you. And then he like senses the presence, and it's this Malik guy. And Malik is another immortal, and this immortal, he has a fucking chainsaw sword, but it's not like those weak ass Warhammer 40k chainsaw swords. It is like it is like Cloud Strife's Buster sword with like 2 chainsaws with like extra like swords on them. Like, I was like, this is dope. Like, what the fuck? Anyway, so they fight. Colin eventually takes his head, and then we get like a rad guitar solo, like electric guitar solo, and we fly over to the city, and on the top of like this giant tower, there's like this white-haired guy, beautiful man, who is like shredding on this guitar, and then this sexy Asian chick who's like barely wearing clothes, and I was like, this is refreshing. Like, It's like the most refreshing thing I've seen in a long time. Like, I was like, damn, what is this? Oh my goodness, it's so good. Anyway, so this hot Asian chick like walks up. She's Japanese. I know she's Japanese because the show like clearly identifies her as Japanese. But this hot Japanese lady walks up to this guy after he's finished like shredding this like electric guitar, and we find, and then they like are talking about some crazy nonsense about the city or something, and then they both like feel something, and they look out in the distance and they see like some of the electricity from like the quickening happening, and they're like, oh, Malik must have fallen. That's interesting. And then the lady's like, should we go do something about it? And he's like, no, they'll come to us. Don't worry about it. And yeah, this guy's Marcus, and I can't remember her name is. It's like Ada Wong. It might as well be. All right, that's what she kind of looks like. Let's see. All right, so then later on, Colin's like walking up to the city. He gets surrounded by these like spider drone guards, samurai robot guards. He pulls out Malik's head, and he's like, I want the bounty, and like tosses it to him. There's also some human guards there too. And then Marcus is watching from one of his like computer screens or whatever, and he tells them to like bring Colin to him. So Colin's about to like, he gets the money and he turns, and the guy's like, no, you're coming with us. And he's like, I don't want to go with you. And he's like, you don't have a choice. And everyone's like, and he's like, all right, fine. So they get in their little like transport vehicle and they're going, and then the guy he pulls a gun on him in the backseat of this thing and starts yelling at him, and so Colin just like fucking kills him and then smashes the guy driving, and then the whole thing like rolls over and he like kills some other things, and then there's like some kid standing there, and the kid's like, yo, and he's like, what up? And he's like, I want a drink, and he's like, there's a bar down that way, and he's like, and so he walks off, and the kid's like, dope. So we get there, Colin orders like a drink, and then just takes the whole bottle to the corner, and then we see this like redheaded prostitute named Daphne or something, and she's like trying to walk over to talk to Colin, and then some other guy is like, oh baby, I got money for you, and she's like, I don't want anything to do with it, and then she like threatens to stab his dick or something, and he heads off, and even the bartender's like, man, leave her alone. And then she walks up and she's like, oh hey, it was something, and then Colin like looks at her and gets like this crazy flashback, because she kind of looks like his like wife from like 124 AD, because he's like he's over like 2,000 years old or whatever at this point. So Colin, and so this prostitute looks just like his wife at the time. So he's like celebrating with some guys. They're talking about they're going to fight like Marcus Aurelius, right? Obviously the same guy, and how they're going to defend like the northern Britain from the Romans and all that good stuff that happened back then with like Hadrian's Wall and whatnot. So he's like a Pike, he's not, or Celt, right? And so his wife, this hot redheaded chick named Moira, is like, baby, this is a bad idea. And he's like, no, honor, I have to do it. And so she's like, well, come have sex with me first. And he's like, yo, dope. And so he goes in there and she's like, here, drink this first. It's to help you get good rest. And he's like, okie dokie. And so he drinks it. And of course it's like a poison to make him like zonk out and to not wake up at all. And so wah, wah, wah. But no, she's loyal. She's doing this so she can go like get the battle not to happen, because all the people are going to die if they have this battle. So she wanders over to like the Roman camp and uses her power of being like a super sexy babe to get close to Marcus, and she's like, I will give you me if you like leave my people alone or whatever and not fight them. And then Marcus essentially is like, well, I'm gonna have my way with you, and then I'm gonna go kill them later. And then she stabs him like a bunch of times because she was hiding a dagger the whole time, but unfortunately for her, she's immortal, so she stabbed him a bunch of times, thinks everything is going to be solved with that, starts trying to figure out a way to sneak back out of the camp, and then Marcus like tracks her down and is like, no, and so he like crucifies her, puts her at the head of like his charge, and they attack like the Celts like immediately, and they get like slaughtered to like the last man. Unfortunately for Colin, he was like zonked out from this drug that Moira gave him. And so by the time he wakes up, the whole village is like on fire, and he's like screaming and trying to like find someone to fight, and he's like, Moira, Moira, and I think he sees her on the crucifix, and then like the house collapses on him or something, and so he's like supposed to be dead, right? But he's not dead because he is an immortal. He didn't know that before, so now he knows. Let's see. So we head back to the present at point, and then Redhead takes him to like this underground city. So we learn that there's like a plague, and it talks about this in like the opening scroll too, but we learned that there's a plague, and it's like kills like half the people or something, and that there's a vaccination for it, but that like only Marcus and his like crew have access to it or something. And so the underground people have to like steal it, and then the boy you met earlier, his little sister needs the vaccine because she's got the plague right now, and so she's dying of it. And then the redheaded prostitute tries to seduce Colin again, but he's like, no, I swore I'm not gonna just like have sex with some prostitute. I love Moira and something, so like nah. And so he leaves, and she chases after him because she's like, well, just help us get vaccines, stop being an asshole, because the supplier we had before that was like sneaking out vaccines from the city like got killed. Meanwhile, Marcus is doing a bunch of business. He's like talking to some shareholders or something. We see like how the people in like the tower live, and they live like very controlled like lives where like essentially the state is in complete control of them and whatnot. It's very fascisty and like real fascism, not like Nazi fascism, which is just socialism, but actual like Mussolini fascism, where everyone's like wearing the same clothes and like the state's in complete control and runs everything and whatnot. And so, you know, he does that. Then he talks to some scientists about something he needs done like right now. And the scientist is like, oh, we need more testing. And like our research and, what is it called? Research, R&D, research and development. And Marcus is like, you have till the end of the day. And the guy's like, what? And then, let's see, he's doing some business watching, and then like and then he's watching like the hot Japanese chick like just fight some goons and kill the shit out of him. And then he thinks back to like when he found her, and so we go back to like 1600s, which I think is the Meiji era of Japan. That might be the 1500s, or it might even be later. This might be the Sengoku period. I'm not like a Japanese scholar, I apologize. But it's like the samurai era, and so he finds her like dead on a battlefield. And so he's like, you're hot, get up. And she's like, what? I'm alive. And he's like, yes, now I own you, and you will do whatever I say for the next like hundreds of years. And she's like, okie dokie. And so that's where they've been. And then they kind of like flirt and like kiss and stuff. And then they get like a call about something to do. Does he get interrupted at this point? He watches her. I don't know. Something happens. Anyway, so back to Colin. He's just walking away. The redhead's chasing after him. And then he sees like an ad, and this is why I think it's in New York, because it seems like it's like he's in Times Square, because it's one of those giant posters. But it could also be like Tokyo, to be completely honest. So he sees one of those big like TV poster, like TV ads on like the skyscraper, and it's like, oh, you leave your crappy lives behind if you want the vaccine and you want safety and health. You should come join me in my citadel. And he's like, Marcus. And then we go back for like another recall, and these recalls are pretty dope. Not gonna lie. So he recalls how he went and tried to kill Marcus, and he got beat up real bad, and then like he got like punched up and like and whatnot. And then Marcus challenges him to a duel, and he's like, let's do it. And so they're both on horseback, and then they like charge at each other, and they're like swinging swords. And eventually Marcus like goes and like swings down to like cut off his head or something, but he misses and just like cleaves his head almost in two. Dope. Like, wow. And so after he like cleaves his head almost in two, he the horse that's carrying Colin like rides off, because he's like strapped to it, because that was like part of the deal, I guess, with the duel. And so Marcus is like he gets like a drink of wine because he's such a badass, and then he's like, all right, I'm gonna go chase this guy down. So he goes and chases him down, but eventually the horse just ends up at like Stonehenge, which is a sacred like a sacred site, right? So Marcus can't kill him in there, and he's like, well, you lucked out this time, Highlander, and like rides off, right? And then the horse like dumps him like on the ground, and then some guy puts him like up on a stone tablet, and it seems like months go by for him to like his head to heal up, right? Because it was like it almost cleaved his head in twain, if you will. And so eventually he like heals from that, and then he's laying there being like, oh, what happened? And then this like old druid man is like standing at the top of Stonehenge because it looks cool, and like literally it's like, what? Why is he standing there? Like, because it looks dope. Like, yeah, that's fair. So he looks down on him, and he's like, oh, you are immortal, something, something. And so that's where he gets trained or whatever. And then he literally uses magic. Like, not even like, oh, it's Highlander magic or some bullcrap. It's like, no, he literally like teleports down to him with like straight up magic. And I'm like, awesome, I love that magic exists in this world for like this one thing. So cool. Okay, so... And I forgot to mention this before, but he says a whole bunch of cryptic stuff to him, not just about being immortal and stuff, but... Throughout the whole series, the whole movie, you keep hearing these voices in Colin's head, and he keeps like talking back, and it's like this druid, and there's not like a lot said about it, which I approve of highly. So back to the present, we meet up with the boy. Oh, so that Colin, Red, and meet up with the boy, and he's like, I want to help, something, I know a way, and they're like, okay, cool. So I head inside the tower. There Colin kills a bunch of robot guards, and then they end up at the scientist place. The boy grabs all the vaccines, like, let's go. And then we learn that this guy, what he's actually working on is like a more powerful virus that will kill like 90% of the people it gets instead of just like 60% or 50% or whatever it was. Red gets super pissed off about that, and then Colin senses Marcus and is like, I'm out. So he heads up to fight him. And then on the way up this like giant elevator up this huge tower, you get all these flashbacks between how they've constantly fought and how Colin continuously just kind of lucked out to not being killed because Marcus kept beating him up and whatnot. So like... Colin would, they fought in like World War II. They fought in like that part when Japan, when he found his like lady friend, they fought there. They fought in like, what else here? Let's see, then there was like a Chinese battle they had. There's Japanese battle. There's World War II. We get the scene from Scotland at the beginning, and we find out that he married another woman there, that this was like a Deborah or whatever, and that this Deborah lady was another redhead that, right, you're sensing a theme. Another redhead who was Scottish, and so they got married. But then she died as well. Or no, he died or something, and then they dragged her off or something. We get like a whole thing with that. And then at some point we learn that Moira, Deborah, and this new redheaded girl all share the same soul. Like the wizard tells them about it. And so Colin fights Marcus at the top of the tower, and he loses like pretty handily, like he always does. But then he locks out again because he just falls to his death instead of losing his head. And as Red's trying to look for him, he crashes down near her. She finds him, and they had to escape. So a bit later on, he like wakes up and he's in a forest with like the old wizard, and they're talking about how vengeance makes the heart sick, and how he'll never defeat Marcus if his sole point is vengeance, and he's not doing this for like a just cause or something. It's some real anime good stuff there. And then there's a lot of messaging here about vengeance is bad and how it corrupts your soul, and you need to come to peace. And this is where he finds out that the redheaded girl is like the same soul as his two wives. He then wakes up and he's actually in like the underground city. So he goes out and everyone's like, oh my gosh, you went to the tower, you got vaccine, we believe in you, Colin. And he holds up his sword. He's like, we will fight and we will destroy them. And so they come up with this plan where they're going to distract Marcus's people, and then Colin's going to go back in and try fighting Marcus one more time. Back with Marcus, meanwhile, we learn that the virus is completely unstable, but he's like YOLO, and the scientist is like, no, you can't use it yet. And then he kills the scientist. He's like, I don't care, I'll just kill everybody and start again. It's not a big deal. So then back to Colin. He talks to Red about how religious she is. She's like apparently super Catholic, right, 'cause Scottish. And then she just like wants to go to church, pray to God, and she's praying to God that like everything will work out here. And she prayed to God that he would show up, and he's like, I don't believe in no gods. And she's like, well, maybe you should. And so and then they fuck, which is awesome. It's like excellent. He then leaves, but he locks her in the room so she can't get out to protect her. And so they execute the plan. So the plan's going pretty well. They got like rockets and stuff, like these hombres who live under the ground. So they're like blowing up a lot of stuff. And Colin's like sneaking in. And then at some point, Marcus is like the kid. The boy's with him and shows him like another secret entrance, and they end up in like this area with like all the equipment and stuff, like a hangar kind of area, and he's like blowing stuff up and killing guards and stuff. And then the Japanese girlfriend flies in with like a helicopter and starts shooting at Colin, and he's running away, and it's pretty awesome. And then Red shows up at some point because she like woke up, breaks out of her room, comes all the way over here where all this stuff's going on. And then she like shoots down the helicopter, which is awesome. Like crashes the girl into the ground and all this stuff. And then Colin heads to confront Marcus again. And Marcus, they have their little arena, which is awesome. And then Marcus brings up like the virus, and he sets it on a 2-minute timer. So in 2 minutes, it's gonna like blow up and send the virus out throughout the city and get everybody. So Colin's got 2 minutes to kill him, or everyone's dead, or he's just going to die and everyone's dead. So they fight. Colin gets beat up like real good, and then he loses the 2-minute timer, which is excellent. And the virus starts spreading throughout the city. Red is like freaking out because birds are falling from the sky and stuff. And then she gets stabbed by the Japanese girlfriend because, of course, she's alive. And they're kind of struggling. And then Red's like, if I got to go, you got to go too. And then she takes a grenade and shoves it in the girl's mouth, blowing off her head and killing both of them. And before she dies, she's like praying that Colin will find her again someday. And then Colin hears her voice, and then the voice of the old man talking about vengeance and stuff. And he prays for God to like forgive him and help him defeat his enemies or give him strength or whatever. And then he wakes up and uses like this Jedi meditation trick where he's like his eyes closed as Marcus like charges at him, and then he starts beating Marcus with like his eyes closed, and eventually takes off his head. And the quickening is so strong, which is this is so anime, I love it. The quickening is so strong that it not only destroys the airborne virus, it blows up like the whole tower and destroys most of Marcus's army. So even the people who like had the virus before, it's like destroyed. The quickening was so strong. Like the boy's sister like is like, I'm fine, hooray, and everyone's celebrating on the streets and stuff, and the light has finally returned to the earth or whatever. And then we get a scene with Colin like lighting a candle in a Catholic church and saying goodbye to the redheaded chick in like this church that she was always worshiping at, and then we see him walking off away from New York, which is the end, which was freaking awesome. And as a little piece of like just random Highlander kind of stuff, it was awesome. Highly recommended. The Search for Vengeance. All right, cool. Let's go ahead, like, share, subscribe, comment, and I will catch you guys later. Bye.